pretty much all of the religions, there are elements of blind faith, and blind faith refers to suspension of disbelief. And suspension of disbelief is that you believe something that is unbelievable or incomprehensible or incoherent at face value. But once you come to Gyan and Baba begins to give the knowledge and also explain the meaning of all these symbols, then immediately you can see clearly, and there is no question of blind faith. There are explanations. And so this is one of the differences between spirituality and religion. So we can say that spirituality is like a clear description of spiritual matters, and religion is where you follow things that you don't really know about or you don't really understand. So you believe them and you have faith, but it's blind faith. And so blind faith is very powerful. Nevertheless, it leads to decline because in blind faith, you engage in negative karma with God without knowing. And so it's quite difficult for a person who comes to Gyan from a place of blind faith to make the shift. And because of that, Baba, in practically every Murli, makes some reference to something that is not true, something that is part of blind faith, so that gradually the person in blind faith is able to make steps to cross over that chasm between matters of blind faith and matters of clear understanding. So today is January 3rd, and the essence is, sweet children, you have to be able to articulate and prove how Brahma becomes Vishnu and how Vishnu becomes Brahma when what they have is an image of each one emerging from the navel of the other. And the question is, what secrets can be understood only by the children with very subtle, refined intellects? So the answer is that the senior mother, the great mother of all of you, is Brahma, and you are the mouth-born children. This is something very secret. Saraswati is Brahma's daughter, and she is the most intelligent. She is called the goddess of knowledge. The father placed the urn of knowledge on women, and it is the lullaby of a mother is remembered. So in Bhakti, there are many things that they say about mothers because they want all the women to imagine themselves according to those descriptions, which are very sweet, but also extremely limiting. So the mother sings a lullaby to a baby. But why they say this is because the words of a woman who knows spirituality enable someone to move into another space so that they can understand spirituality. But people wouldn't know that this lullaby is symbolic of that. So the women can explain to everyone how there can be peace in the world. And the song is, the innocent Lord is different from everyone else. Shibaba, the non-human soul. Om Shanti. The one who puts right what has gone wrong, this expression would apply to God, not to Shankar. And the expression Bholanat, the innocent Lord, would apply to Shiva and not to Shankar. And the expression boatman would apply to Shiva and not to Shankar or Vishnu. So when the boatman is referred to, then your intellects, your focus of attention will go to God the Father, the incorporeal one. The image of the Trimurti is well known, and the government of India's coat of arms is a Trimurti, but it is 3 lions. And under that, they have written the motto that there is victory through truth. You cannot derive meaning from a symbol of animals. So the government has this seal of the coat of arms, and all the great kingdoms have their own coat of arms. So in Bharat, the Trimurti is well known. They have the image of the Trimurti, but the element of Shiva has been removed from it because they do not know about him. When you say God the Father, your focus of attention goes beyond to the incorporeal. You cannot say that Brahma, Vishnu, or Shankar are God the Father. God the Father is the Father of all the souls, and he is the highest on high. And they know that God is the highest on high. But the highest on high cannot be Brahma, Vishnu, or Shankar. The highest on high is incorporeal God, and everyone knows this. In the Sikh religion, they say of God, they praise God, and they also know that only God can be called the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, the one who changes ordinary people into deities. Deities reside in the Golden Age, and the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, makes ordinary people into deities, but they do not know how he does this. They say for God, or they ask God to wash the filthy clothes. That means that he makes people who were like filthy clothes into deities. But they do not write when that was done. You know that God is truly changing ordinary mortals into deities at this time. And he had given salvation to those who were degraded. He made elevated those who were corrupt. And you can explain that the elevated deities lived only in Bharat. At the time when Guru Nanak took birth, the world was corrupt, and this is why he sings this praise. There are the images of Lakshmi and Narayan. The Sikhs celebrate the birthday of Guru Gobind Singh with a lot of splendor, and he is the one who formulated the Sikh religion. So it was founded by Guru Nanak, but it became formalized by Guru Gobind Singh. He himself said that God is the incorporeal and egoless one. He comes and changes ordinary, impure people into pure deities. Shri Krishna, the human being, cannot change other human beings into deities. But it is said in the Gita that I teach you Raj Yoga and make you into the elevated emperors and empresses. Only God the Father would be called the purifier, and he has to come into the corrupt world to do that. People say to him, they call out to God, asking him to come and purify. Only the one incorporeal Father makes you elevated. The highest on high is God, and after him come Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar. They are the creation of the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul. And there can be no image of him. And this is why, the Sikh religion is in between Islam and Hinduism as a kind of buffer religion. And in Islam and Judaism, they're very specific that you cannot have a representation of God. So this sentence is referring to that. So the Father explains that Brahma, they show that Brahma emerged from the navel of Vishnu. So how does Vishnu emerge from the navel of Brahma? It is because Brahma becomes Vishnu, and then Vishnu becomes Brahma. The establishment of the new world is accomplished through Brahma, and that same Brahma and Saraswati become Vishnu, the dual form, and they take the form of Lakshmi and Narayan, and they sustain the kingdom. This means Brahma and Saraswati become Lakshmi and Narayan. And Brahma would say, I become the dual form of Vishnu, Lakshmi, and Narayan. So Lakshmi and Narayan would say, we were Brahma and Saraswati, and we have emerged from their navels. In the Hindi, it did not say that. It said, Lakshmi and Narayan became Brahma and Saraswati. So we pass through the stages of deities, warrior, merchant, and Shudra, and these matters have to be understood. Baba explains that this Brahma, into whose body I have entered, has now completed his 84 births. This body is not a chariot. The images they have shown are incorrect. People do not know about the period of the confluence age. And so they, the people who set up the Vedic India, they brought everyone into darkness. And they said that the Iron Age is of hundreds of thousands of years, And the duration of the golden age is a specific number of hundreds of thousands of years. And by saying this, they put everyone into the depth of darkness. The Father says, I am in front of those children who recognize me. Others would not understand who this is. If he went into a large satsang, they would not understand. And amongst you also, there are very few who understand. And you repeatedly forget. This one is the greatest of all, the highest authority. See how much regard they give to the Pope. Who is the Pope? He belongs to the Christian dynasty. At this time, it is everyone's last birth. Christ, they changed this quite a lot, said that Christians have been taking birth from the time of Christ, and all have now reached the Tamopradhan stage. They have become impure. So they continue to harm one another. And the Father says, this play is predestined. The highest on high is incorporeal God, and then there is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar, and establishment takes place through Brahma, and the sustenance is accomplished by the same one through whom there is establishment. And therefore this Brahma and Saraswati must become Lakshmi and Narayan. And then Lakshmi and Narayan ultimately become Brahma and Saraswati. She is the mouth-born creation of Prajapita Brahma. Krishna cannot be called Prajapita. This one is called Prajapita Brahma. This is his name. Brahmins must be created through Brahma, and Brahmins are needed. The Father says, I adopt Brahma and I make this one into Brahma, who has taken the full 84 births and is now in his last birth. Only one can be Brahma, and he does not know his own births. Shiv Baba is sitting here explaining to Brahma, and there would be Brahmins also. Brahmins are the mouth-born creation of Brahma, and all of you, Brahma Kumars and Kumaris, are adopted children. The creation of Brahma, the father of the people, would definitely be through the mouth. So Shiv Baba uses the mouth of Brahma to tell Brahma, you are Brahma. But this was a bit difficult. So he also used another person for a little while to say, I am Shiva, you are Brahma. I use your body. These matters have to be understood very well. And that one himself explains, I have to come at the end of his many births. In the beginning of the Golden Age, they were Lakshmi and Narayan, and they would definitely take 84 births. Others take fewer births. Brahma becomes the dual form of Vishnu. So this has to be understood very well. The first thing is to have faith that Krishna cannot give the knowledge of the Gita. It is also remembered that the self-same one is worthy of worship, and the self-same one is a worshipper. So this applies to Krishna, but it does not apply to Shiv Baba. So when you are on the path of devotion, you are a worshipper. And when you are in the time of knowledge, in the golden age and silver age, you are worthy of worship. In the confluence age, you are not worthy of worship. The dual form of Vishnu was definitely worthy of worship. And then Brahma, having passed through the golden age and silver age as Lakshmi and Narayan and then he became a worshipper, and then he became a worshipper of Vishnu. And Brahma Baba would say, I am a worshipper of Vishnu, and I am now becoming the same with worship-worthy Vishnu. And the same applies to you. This is said to be the deepest of deep matters. From where did Brahma come? And where did Vishnu go? Only you know this. And because the Hindu devotees believe these deities are immortal, it means they must be somewhere. They don't know where. So only you know this. The dual form of Vishnu, which is Lakshmi and Narayan, must pass through the full 84 births and become impure when they reach the end. When that dynasty becomes completely impure, then I come and I re-establish it. And I cause the end of all other dharmas. And dharmas is not just religions, but civilizations and ideas, philosophies. Once again, I come and I teach you Raj Yoga and establish the elevated deity dharma, and I get all the corrupt ways to be destroyed. There is no other dharma in the kingdom of Ram. The kingdom of Ram means the kingdom of God, which means the golden age. There are all other religions at this time, but the original dharma of Bharat is no longer there. It is being reestablished once again. There are images that are memorials of that civilization. The image of Shiva must be placed above the Trimurti, Brahma and Saraswati. Excuse me. Brahma and Saraswati become Lakshmi and Narayan, and as children, they were Radhe and Krishna. Radhe came from one kingdom, and Krishna came from another kingdom. That means before the Golden Age, there were kingdoms. After the Iron Age, after destruction, there were kingdoms before the Golden Age. So Radhe does not hold the sitar of knowledge. So the sitar is the symbol that is given to Saraswati. And Saraswati becomes Radhe in the future through this knowledge. Saraswati is called the goddess of knowledge, And she would definitely have received this knowledge from the father. Saraswati is called the daughter of Brahma. There is Brahma, the father of the people, and so a mother of the people is also needed. And this is also secret. The greater mother is Brahma, and women are given knowledge through Brahma. And the greater daughter, Jagat Amba, is remembered. Because you are adopted through the mouth of Brahma, that makes him the mother, because a child emerges through a mother. So the most intelligent of all Brahma's daughters is Saraswati. And where did she come from? Brahma does not have a wife. He is the father of the people, and so his creation is created through the mouth. And this drama is eternally predestined. It is predestined, and it remains that way forever. Saraswati is the goddess of knowledge, and incorporeal Shiv Baba would not go to religious conferences, so Shiv Baba in the body of Brahma Baba, or even Brahma Baba without Shiv Baba in him cannot go and sit there, because they wouldn't recognize him. The women are praised. The heads of all religions should be women. Jagat Amba, the world mother, sits and sings a lullaby. When she gives knowledge, people are like enchanted by it. Children are born through a mother, and Jagat Amba is the mother of all. So everyone should bow to her. A mother can explain how this degraded world can become elevated, or a woman can explain, and how peace can be established in this land of Bharat. There cannot be peace in the kingdom of Ravan, and only a woman can explain how you can find peace. The region of peace is nirvana, the region beyond sound. This is the world of hardship, distress, and the golden age is the world of happiness and prosperity. Truly, in the golden age, there was the one kingdom, one empire, and there was everything: prosperity, peace, purity, happiness. But there isn't that anymore. This means that drama is definitely coming to an end. The lifespan of a tree ultimately reaches its end. And the 84 births of the deities have also come to an end. There cannot be 8.4 million births. It has been a fixed amount of time since the time of Islam and the time of Buddhism. So how could there be 8.4 million births for the Hindus? It takes time to go through the stages of childhood, adolescence, and old age. So if everyone had to take 8.4 million births, then the duration of the cycle would have to be a lot longer. So this woman explains your relationship with the Supreme Father the Supreme Soul. He is the Father, the Creator, and he, Shiv Baba, would have created Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar first. And that's the template for the world. Then he would have created the human society through Brahma. He does not create a new planet. If it were so, then the people in the world would not say, "O purifier, come." At this time, the whole world is impure, human society. Everyone is degraded. They continue to remember, "O God the Father, have mercy." So they say, "O God the Father, have mercy on us, liberate us from the distress of Maya." So that means, how could God give any difficulty, any sorrow? There must be some other one who causes distress. When there was just one civilization in the Golden Age, the souls of all the other religions were in the region of Nirvana, in the soul world. And all souls are now here. So the Father has to come to establish that one civilization, that one dharma. There is establishment through Brahma, and that same Brahma then becomes Vishnu. That means Brahma emerges from the navel of Vishnu. That means after many, many births of Vishnu, it becomes Brahma. So I give him knowledge so that he becomes the deity. He studies Raj Yoga, and people of the world have created many images, many stories. All of these are tooth stories, not told stories, but tooth stories. That means they are stories to make you afraid and control you through fear. These moral stories. So the main thing is, who is the God of the Gita, the mother of all scriptures? It has to be explained that the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, gives birth to Vishnu. So he would also give birth to Brahma, wouldn't he? There are those are the deities of the Golden Age, so Lakshmi and Narayan. Where does Brahma belong? You know, in the Golden Age, behind the throne of Lakshmi and Narayan, there is an image of Vishnu. So the image of Vishnu persists through the whole cycle. So Brahma would definitely be in the Iron Age. And there is the expression that God comes at the end of the last of many, many births. So that would refer to the deities who were the most elevated, or the deity who was the most elevated and who has now become corrupt. So there are the Sun and Moon dynasty kingdoms in the first two ages. There are 4 sections of the cycle, and there is no question of hundreds of thousands of years for the duration of the cycle. Some believe that 3,000 years before Christ, Bharat was heaven, and all this has to be explained very clearly. The Father explains, all these Brahma Kumars and Kumaris are my adopted children. Destruction is now just ahead, and it is not possible for a human being to make the corrupt world of Bharat elevated and pure. Baba has explained that when the deities go onto Vammarg, so Vammarg is the wrong path. So they get into vice, lust, and then the sannyasis come after quite some time, and they support Bharat with the power of their purity. However, by this time, all have become impure. Rivers come from the ocean. And people say that rivers are the purifiers and they bathe in them, the Ganges in particular. But there are rivers everywhere. How could rivers be the purifiers? Only the one Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, is the purifier. So the Ganges of knowledge can make the degraded ones elevated through Sahaj Raj Yoga are needed here. The Father says, I am the Almighty Authority. And when you have yoga with me, then all your negative karma will be vanished, resolved. Acha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning. From the mother, the father, Bapdada. The spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children. Spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. The essence for dharana, the father is the greatest of all, the highest authority. Recognize him accurately and have regard for him and follow his Shrimat fully. The Father has given the urn of knowledge to women, so keep the women in front. You say mothers, but there are tons of women who are not mothers. So he's not talking only to people who have children. This word mata means woman. The blessing is, may you be loving and detached like the Father and become double light by surrendering everything to the Father. To become double light means to surrender everything to the Father. Even this body is not my own. The Father gave you this body for you to do service. And you promised that your body, mind, and wealth all belong to him. So since even your body is not your own, what else do you have? Always keep the example of the lotus in your awareness, that I am loving and detached like a lotus. And those who remain detached like this have the right to God's love. How does this work? If you are attached to someone, then you take support from them. So if you take support from someone that you are attached to, or if you take support from someone, it means you are depending on them. That means that you're not having full or taking full support from God. And if you don't take full support from God, then you can't claim love. Love means full support. So there's a connection between love and taking support. It's quite deep. So ask yourself, who can you not live without? or think of all the people who are important to you. And if all of them became dead right now, would it make any difference to you? Because to check whether or not you have attachment to somebody, you have to go through various scenarios to check yourself. Because what is meant by detached and loving is that you are completely independent of any human being. And so then you are a solitary person. And there is an expression that God loves the solitary people. So solitary doesn't mean that you don't talk to anyone and you don't live with anyone, but it is that you are not dependent on anyone emotionally or any other way. And then you can have the full love from God. So there's a relationship between these two things. So the slogan is, those who stay within the lines of the codes of conduct, the Maryadas, are Maryada Purushottam. So Maryada is boundaries. So one aspect of boundary is that you do not let anyone influence you. So if you come under somebody's influence, it means that they have a hold over you, which means that you are attached to them, even if you don't want to be. And then that prevents you from being supported and protected by God. So you have to make sure that nobody gets their hooks into you. You know what I mean by that? So a lot of the Lokic relationships is all about taking possession of each other. So people like to take possession of each other and they call it love, but it's actually something else. So these Maryadas, these lines of boundaries, actually prevent that from happening, and you retain your independence. So this is about that. There is the little section that comes at the end. Experience the stage of being merged in love. Let the Father be merged in your eyes and in all your words, and with your powerful form, the almighty authority, that is, all the powers, will be visible. And just as in the beginning, Sri Krishna was visible in Brahma Baba, in the same way, let Shiv Baba Sarvashaktivan be seen through you children. So the like the light of God. And this expression, almighty authority, is sometimes confusing to people because the word authority is not generally appreciated. And Sarvashaktivan actually means omnipotent, which it has a different feeling than almighty authority, because authority tends to mean that you don't have any freedom, you don't have any rights, you're under somebody. And yet what Baba gives us is all the powers. And so for us to be a person with all the powers, as the powers of God, the power of God is generally experienced as a huge source of light. And so when people in the beginning, when they saw Brahma Baba, some people would see great light, And some people would see Krishna. He would be there, but they wouldn't see his body. They would see the body of Krishna in his body. And of course, those people who experienced that were all believed that Krishna is God. And so when they saw the figure of Krishna in him, they thought he was God. And in the beginning, because of the nature of Hindu teachings, he also thought that he had become like an incarnation of God. And it is also there in the traditions of India that a person becomes enlightened. So especially for Buddha, they say that at a particular point, he got enlightenment. He was sitting under the Bodhi tree for 40 days and 40 nights to get enlightenment. And then the soul of the Buddha came into the body of the prince. And then the religion of Buddhism continued for that. From that time. And the same thing happened with Jesus when the soul of Christ came in. And so there were a lot of people who were sages of India into whom these beings came, and some of them, a few of them, became the great religions or smaller religions that are there in India but not so well known in the world. And so he thought that this has happened to him. And he didn't get it for quite some time, that he was being used as the instrument by Shiv Baba. And he also had a vision of Vishnu, which in Hindu beliefs is said to mean that you've had a vision of God. And when he had this vision of Vishnu, the figure of Vishnu said to him, I am the four-armed one, and so are you. So he also interpreted that as meaning, I have become God. And in Hindu beliefs, it's quite possible to become God. But then the information slowly emerged that no, it's not possible to become God. God is God, and he's not a human soul. He's a soul. But you are deity. And so this Murli is talking all about how this same human being who took 84 births is referred to in this belief that Brahma becomes Vishnu and Vishnu becomes Brahma. In some Murlis, you hear him say that it takes 1 second to go from Brahma to Vishnu. Actually, it takes more than 1 second to go through the process of Raj Yoga to the point where you become Vishnu. But it takes 1 second to get the point that this is who I am and this is what I have to become. And this is the confluence age during which time I have to become that. So then he says, okay, now you are BKs. That means you also had 84 births. You also used to be deities. And now you have to become again. Now, one thing I see among BKs, many BKs talk to each other and they say, oh, you are a deity, you are an angel, this and that. But they don't understand anything at all by saying things like that. So it actually brings down to a very ordinary level what this is. So I don't think it's appropriate to do that. And because it is confusing to people. You start saying this one is an angel and that one is an angel. It's like you're talking to 2-year-old children. And if you practice this as if everybody's in kindergarten, how will you reach where Baba is taking you? I don't see how that's possible. So therefore we need to really work with this Murli, because it's very excellent to make a person realize that this is quite a serious matter, to bridge your last birth to your first birth. And Shiv Baba will not do it for you. He comes into the body of Brahma and he does many, many things and explains to us very clearly what is involved in actually restoring ourselves to our original condition, which is the meaning of parivartan. Parivartan is translated as change. And people think, oh, well, I have to change from being a regular person to a slightly okay person. But that's not what it means at all. It means that you have to think quite deeply to realize that in your previous births, you go back over 84 births, all the way to understand that those deities that the devotees believe in were people, and that those deities pass through 84 births and they become people like this. And nobody knows who those deity souls became after 84 births, because you're all mixed up with the world population and you look like everybody else and act like everybody else and are impure like everybody else. And your battery is finished like everybody else. And so how would you know who you are? You can't know. But Shiv Baba knows who all the deity souls are, right? He would know. And so he created this method of these pictures, the picture of the Trimurti, the picture of the Kalpa tree, the picture of the ladder, the three worlds, all these, the pictures that contain the knowledge. And he says, these are mirrors. Look in the mirror, and if you can see yourself, it means you're one. And so you get a kind of moment of recognition, which vanishes quite quickly. And then you become a Raj Yogi and you start studying these things. But you have to study it at the same level, or at the level which will make you able to become what you were. So this Murli is very, very good for this particular practice of going through the idea that I was Vishnu, something like Vishnu. Then I became this. And so people are in the context of their lokiks, and they their work, and they're surrounded by people who are not deity souls. And so it's very, very easy to consider these ideas in the same way as you consider the ideas in a religious way. Because if you are a religious person, in particular a Hindu religious person, then you have a relationship with the deities, but there's no question of seriously thinking that you used to be a deity, because the Hindu description of deities is mixed between a memory of the historical people and the memory of the behavior of the people who were becoming deities in the confluence age, because they had to fight all the time with Ravan. And then there were all these stories created which showed that the deities were no different from ordinary people. For example, if you take the story of the Ramayana, you have all these different types of emotions, feelings, and motivation going on in the deities, which are exactly the same as the emotions, feelings, and behaviors of people of the Iron Age. Right? And so on the one hand, people worship deities, and on the other hand, they think of them as being no different from ordinary people. So there's a complete disconnect in the mentality if you do that. And so when Baba comes along and says, okay, no, I will tell you what a deity is. And of course, in Hinduism, it says that a deity is somebody who's complete with all the virtues, completely viceless, Maryada Purushottam, totally non-violent. And then all the stories of deities are the opposite, which means that the mental processing of people who are raised in Hinduism is completely dysfunctional, because it's so full of contradictions to the point where you can't take it seriously. And so you have to have something called suspension of disbelief, which I mentioned a few times, suspension of disbelief. And suspension of disbelief is a mindset where you believe something that you don't believe. And when you do that, then what happens to your intellect is it's destroyed. In the Gita, it says that the way the intellect is destroyed is by giving credence, believing what you receive in sense perception, what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you experience from the world. You say that's real. And so there is this couple of verses which talks about everything starting from attraction and becoming attachment, and then anger, etc., and finally resulting in the destruction of the intellect through sense perception. And then what Baba is saying is on a much higher level. So if you're going to say that your intellect is destroyed through sense perception, it would have to apply to also to your relationship with the description of deities in the Indian scriptures. Because if anything will destroy your capacity to think clearly, it'll be that, the contradictions that you have to accept. And so for Shiv Baba to come and explain all these things in India to people whose background is the contradictions of the stories and scriptures and so on, Dant Katai, these tooth stories. I think you can say that this is a proof that he's God, because no human being could do that. It's absolutely out of the question to tackle that problem and clarify. And most of it has to do with separating the stories that refer to what was happening in the Confluence Age with the historical record of deities of the Golden Age. That has to be separated. At the moment, it's not separated. It's all mixed up. Because in the Confluence Age, there was all these tussles between Pandavas and Kauravas, between different people who were interacting with God and with each other with different motivations. And so it's very, very complicated. And so only Shiv Baba can know who are the former deities. And among BKs, all BKs are understood to be former deities. But then Baba says, well, it's number wise. Some are kings, some are queens, some are princes, princesses, some are in the royal household, some are outside subjects, wealthy subjects, poor subjects, servants, etc., etc. There's a whole pyramid of the civilization. And all of these people are in the Confluence Age, but you cannot tell who is who very easily. But yet, you must try to understand who you are. You can gradually understand who is who, but your main focus is to understand who you are. And then you can also see that what is actually a deity. So who we have in our Confluence-aged historical record is we have Brahma Baba, we have Mama, Jagat Amba, Saraswati, and then we have the main Dadis, especially Dadi Prakashmani was a very good and visible example of what Baba's talking about, as here is a person who through her entire life reached that stage of having all the characteristics of an about to become deity, right? We saw this. So now there are not people like this because it's all number wise. And we know that the top number is Brahma, Saraswati, and that they become Lakshmi and Narayan. So you go to a Hindu temple and you see an image of Lakshmi and Narayan. That is not Lakshmi and Narayan, that's an image of Lakshmi and Narayan. And so it's very difficult for a Hindu to imagine who these people were by looking at the images in the temples. And sometimes Baba says in the Murli, it is not possible to create an accurate representation of a deity. Not possible. So a few people were shown visions of Krishna. So in this Murli, Baba talked about how people would see Brahma Baba, but they wouldn't see him, they would see Krishna. And it is a phenomenon that there can be like a superimposition. So visions are quite interesting things. They're superimposed on current reality, so that sometimes you can see both current reality and the overlay. And sometimes you can only see the overlay. And you remember yesterday, Jesse had brought a picture with a picture of Brahma Baba overlaid by a bhakti picture of Vishnu. And this is really what happened, is people would see this overlay and it would trigger their religious sentiment. So they believed this is God. And then slowly, it had to be explained, no, I am God. Now, in the end of the Murli, Baba says, okay, you have to be such, like that when people look at you, they see the light of God. Does that happen? Yes, no. Yes, no. No. Huh? Sometimes it happens, or at least used to happen, that when you would be giving the knowledge to someone, and very often who would become a BK, they would see light in you. You must have experienced that. Yeah. And so what was that? It has to be, as Baba said in a Murli a couple of days ago, that Baba can give drishti, right? He can tell the knowledge more cleverly than you can and give drishti, and people will see that light, right? He can do that. And what he's saying now in this Murli is, you do it. So that means that if you are doing it, it means everybody will see it, whoever looks at you. If he's doing it, somebody will see it at the time and then not afterwards, right? You can't just switch it on, switch it off. No, right? So now he's saying to us, I think at this period of time, now all of these things, whatever I was doing through you, understand he was doing it, but now you have to really think, I am studying this to become a deity of the beginning of the golden age. And what is that like? So, some thoughts. Okay, there is a question coming, and Nesa is saying, which one comes first, loving or detached? Generally speaking, whenever this question had arisen, the word detached comes first. And you have to really understand what is the meaning of attached, because attached means that you are taking support from someone or something or someplace. And when you take support from something from the Iron Age, there are times when they are there and there are times when they're not there. So the characteristic of attachment is that like when the support is not there, when the love is not there, then you feel quite bad about it. So the state of attachment is indicated by disappointment, irritation, all sorts of negative emotions that occur when you don't get what you want. This is a sign of attachment. When you're detached, the sign of detachment is that if it's there, it's fine. If it's not there, it's fine. It doesn't make any difference to how you feel as to whether that what is pleasant is there or not. And so you also hear about another thing, which is the pairs of opposites, in which it is said you have to be equal if there is praise or defamation. If you are attached, you like it when there's praise and you don't like it when there's defamation. But if you are detached, it's the same for you if you're praised or you're defamed. It doesn't make any difference because you're not dependent on somebody telling you you're wonderful, marvelous, fantastic, or they come at you and start insulting you and disrespecting you and so on. You say, so what? So that's detachment. And to get to that point, you have to work on it. And where he says loving, according to this Murli, what I was taking from it is that only when you're really detached, then you're fully taking support from Baba, Shiv Baba, and then you can experience his love because he does not share. You can't have partly him and partly somebody else. He says, if it's somebody else, have a nice day. If it's me, full on. And this is why he says, Father, teacher, Satguru. Satguru means only me, nobody else. There are many phrases that come in the Murli that mine is only one Baba, nobody else at all. And when you have that, then you're really detached, and then you can experience Baba's love. And also you can be nice to everybody, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter, because you're concerned not about them, but you're concerned about your karma being correct. Is that right? There's a question, what kind of attachment you have for your child? Is it more unconditional love? First of all, this expression, unconditional love, comes from the Iron Age. It has no connection with Gyan or with Baba or with common sense. There is no such thing as unconditional love, but it's a very, it's a phrase that people think is wonderful and meaningful and marvelous. But if you analyze it, you will find that you have been deceived. So I would be very careful about that phrase. And there are some times when Baba talks about the fact that his love is conditional. And then he sometimes says that all love is conditional. But people don't like that expression because they would prefer to be loved regardless. They just want to be loved, and they think that they don't think that love is earned. Actually, love is earned. But your relationship with the child, your child, there is a difference between love and attachment. And real love, it's probably better to use the word real love than unconditional love. And love also is kind of behavior as well as a feeling. And when you have a child, you have a responsibility to that child. And that means you must give affection and you must give structure. You have to be consistent and coherent in your relationship with that child. You have to listen to that child, understand that that child is not an object but a human being who has had many births, no doubt. And then you have to raise that child. And so loving a child means there should not be neglect, there should not be violence, there should not be insults. You have to be very responsible when you are having a child and raising a child, and you need to really know a lot about how to do it well, which not many people do. Okay, Baba gave the urn of knowledge to women. This is a belief in India, and it's there in the scriptures that the urn is carried by women. You see women carrying pots of water on their heads, right? And in Hinduism, there's just a lot of belief in the importance of a woman carrying a pot on her head. There are rituals involved with that include sometimes in the marriage ceremonies, and then there's a lot in dances. You will have so many pots on top of your head, and you can still dance. But the symbolism of knowledge is water, and water is contained in an urn. And Shiv Baba gives the duty to women to give the knowledge. And the system of the yagya that Baba created, and which is also referred to in the Murli today, quite interestingly, he said all the heads of all the religions should be women. And why? There's a number of reasons. One is because, partly because it's easier for women to be spiritual than for men, because women are biologically internalized and males are externalized biologically. And the biological effect impacts the mentality. And then there's also the idea of surrender. So a woman is conditioned to surrender. A man is conditioned to not surrender. So it's very difficult for a man to say, okay, I give up and God take over. So Brahma Baba had to do that. And so many brothers also. But overall, in BKs, it's a larger number of women. And what we observe in religious gatherings and the people who mostly carry the religion in terms of practices is the women. And so it's like a tradition, and it's there in the rituals, and water is symbolic of the knowledge. So the women are the ones who carry that water and distribute that water, and then take care of the souls. Women take care of seeds traditionally. All the seeds in the world are held by women. The seeds that you get, industrial seeds, are infertile. And so there are quite a lot of women. And traditionally, in the ancient ways, the women would take care of the seeds. And knowledge is also like a seed. So there's all these combinations of traditions and customs and symbolism, which is connected with all these things that people in the modern world maybe don't know about. But there is a kind of a continuity in the ancient world with the things that Baba's talking about. Okay, the question, what is Lakshmi's position as a woman against Narayan? What is her duty? Why does Baba say her name first? Interesting. Why he says her name first is he wants to put women forward, and partly this is because during the Copper Age and Iron Age, it's been a patriarchal system where the man was forward, the woman was behind, and he wanted to create equality. And so you have the picture of Lakshmi and Narayan with them standing next to each other. Most of the BKs are patriarchal, and yet there are some who think that the Golden Age and Silver Age might have been matriarchal. But that's just a few people who think like that. But if you ask Dadi Janki, which people did, and Dadi Janki was very patriarchal actually, and she said, no, it's Narayan first and then Lakshmi. But Baba does say Lakshmi and then Narayan. And so we will see in the constitution of the BKs, it is forbidden for a man to ever be the head of the BKs. So there's something about that where it has to be a woman who takes that top position, which is very much the opposite of the current world that we live in, and very much the opposite of the patriarchal world. So there is that. And it's hard to know exactly how the relationship of Lakshmi and Narayan is in the Golden Age from here, because we just have not been given all those details, so we can surmise. Love thy neighbor, that Jesus has said, and what does that mean in the context of Gyan? Well, love thy neighbor as thyself. I would say it is better to make sure that you are not prejudiced in your dealings with people who are not the same as you. And this is a real problem that we have in the world today, that people think of your own people and then other. So if you say from that angle that you will treat a person who may be of a different culture or color or race or gender than you, and if you treat them other than how you would want to be treated or how you would treat people who are like you, then you're not loving your neighbor. And so in terms of the word condition, what happens with people who are prejudiced, which is most people are racist and gender biased and this type of thing. To be honest, they are. Mostly because they've been trained to be. And a lot of research has been done into whether this is natural, congenital, or whether it is learned. And sociological research has shown that children are trained to be racist and gender biased and all of these things, and that it doesn't come naturally. So our problem is the socialization. And so when you interpret Jesus's statement that love thy neighbor as thyself, I think it's very realistic to consider that that means you should not operate in a prejudiced manner with your judgment of people based on race, gender, color, culture. And if you look in the Bible, you can see how in the life of Jesus, he was not prejudiced against people who were not Jews because he was a Jew. He didn't have any problem with people who were not Jews. For him, they were all people. Yeah. Just a moment of traffic control. Can you briefly explain about Baba's conditional love? I can just point to some of the things that he says in the Murli. For example, he says about love, love begets love. That means if you love Baba, Baba will love you. And what we observe with Baba in terms of our own practice and experience is that when your interaction with Baba is correct, according to Shrimat and everything, he lets you come close, he lets you feel him. And when you go against it, there's a distance. So that might be a way of talking about how it's conditional. And then you see, if you use the term unconditional, it means that you are negating the existence of the law of karma. Because the law of karma means that whatever you do, you have an equal and opposite consequence. And so if you take up the idea of unconditional love, and then somebody challenges you about it, as okay, then you have to demonstrate your unconditional love. It actually can't be demonstrated because you would have to function without the law of karma, which you cannot do because the law of karma is there. You can't say there is no such thing as the law of karma. But it is an implication of the concept of unconditional love. It's rather similar to the idea of God is omnipresent. Sounds good, everybody likes it, but you cannot demonstrate it. You cannot do it. You cannot explain it at all. You can just get people to get onto the bandwagon of it, which did happen and has also happened with this idea of unconditional love. Because you see, how an idea gets popularized is it gets spoken about widely and everybody goes along with it. In a way, the same thing happened with the concept of evolution. There's actually no basis, no proof, no indication, but it's very convenient for the people who control the society to get everybody to believe in evolution. And so they do. But you can't explain it, you can't prove it, you can't measure it, you can't indicate it. And just by finding dinosaur footprints doesn't prove or disprove evolution. It's just, yeah, there were dinosaurs, but we don't know enough about it to say what's going on. All we know is they all died on the same day. So something big happened to make them die, but we don't know what that is, although there are indications.
What is the definition of love?
What is my definition of love? Well, my definition of love. My friend Murli from Australia always says, love is a verb. So love is to show that you see a person, respect a person, care for a person, and you will fulfill what is needed. That is love. It's to do with how you are with other people. Loving the nature has to do with looking after it and not desecrating it. It's not a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's like a policy. And people want to feel loved. And love is a big energy. And Shiv Baba has a lot of energy, which is made up of these 5 elements: purity, peace, power, love, and bliss. And this is the stuff, the energy that nurtures the soul. And this is the energy that is missing in souls. Souls are depleted. That means this energy of purity, peace, power, love, and bliss is gone. And people are hungry for it. And they look for it from other people or from things or from places. And you can get just a little hit. But always you want more and more, and which you can't get from them. And so Baba says, have all your relationships with me, because relationship is an interaction with another person, place, or thing whereby you get something from them. But if you just get and don't give, then it'll run out pretty quickly. So he says, try to make your give and take equitable and equal. But the hunger in your soul cannot be satisfied by that. You can only satisfy it by taking from God. And you can't take from God if you're also taking from here, there, and everywhere. And so you have to renounce trying to get from here, there, and everywhere and take only from him. Then you will get filled. That's the equation. Okay, you say Baba loves everyone. Okay, he loves everyone. That means to say his love is available for everyone, no doubt, but not everybody takes it because they don't know how to take it, and they relate to God in such a way that they're not able to take it because they're busy with other things. And so I think the problem is your concept of conditional love is you are feeling that if there are conditions, I don't want it because I don't want to fulfill the conditions. And so you prefer unconditional love because you don't want to have any conditions to fulfill because it's work. And yes, there is work involved. And yes, we have to fulfill the conditions. I don't really see any other way around it, but that this popularized idea of unconditional love has given people, I can say, has misled people, has given people a wrong idea about love, a wrong idea about, you think that, oh, well, I should just be loved, and that's correct. But it's really not like that. You've been deceived by the popular ideas. I can see how our experience of God's love may not be experienced even though he does love us. Okay, well, if you can see that, that's brilliant, because that is important. You cannot receive God's love if you're not going to do what's needed to get it. You have to claim it. And if you want to claim anything, like if suppose you win the lottery, sometimes he says you won a lottery. Okay, you have to claim that. And they will ask you for your identity and this and that, and then you can get that. Or if you want to claim something from the government, they will check everything. And if you fulfill all the conditions, then you can get it. So it's a similar type of thing. You have to fulfill the conditions in order to receive it. It is there, but you must fulfill the conditions. So all these things are quite confusing for people. If it's conditional love, isn't it Tamil Pradhan? No, nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with tainted with expectations of a give and take type of relationship. No, a give and take type of relationship is conditional, but it's not tainted and it's not Tamil Pradhan. A relationship based on vice is tainted and Tamil Pradhan, but that's nothing to do with love. That's lust. And it can apply with attachment, but not love. And I think this is also something that people get mixed up with. They think that love and attachment is the same thing, but actually they're the opposite of each other. So maybe one problem is that people's idea of love, they use the word love to refer to attraction, attachment, falling in love, being possessed or taking possession of someone, none of which is love, but all of which goes by the name of love. And so we need to think about what is really love and what is really peace. And he talks about it in the Murlis. So whenever you see a Murli where Baba actually talks about love, churn that. And I think that will give you greater clarity into what Baba means by love. And what human beings mean by love may not be the same thing at all. Because mostly what human beings mean by love is do something for me. Give me, give me, give me. It's to do with taking. And it's because the human soul is very depleted. And Baba says, you cannot get love other than from me. And the price of that love, condition is like the price. The price is you have to stop trying to get love from people, places, and objects, because that gets in the way of you taking love from me. And that is not to do with his wish. It's to do with the laws of spirituality, the laws of karma. And this is why we have study. Yes, Jennifer. It is conditional on doing what is needed to claim his love. Exactly. You may not think you have to pay a price. We keep saying Raj Yoga is free, but it is the most expensive thing on the face of the earth. It costs everything. Your life, your relationships, your money, your intelligence, your mind, your heart. It costs you everything. Your beliefs, yeah, your beliefs. What a wonder. If you would write, I tell you, you get more people. If you write, this is the most expensive, exclusive form of yoga there is, you get a lot of people, much more than if you say it's free. People like what they can't have, you know. Okay, so let's have a moment with Baba. Om Shanti.